What if I told you that the most powerful state of consciousness for reality creation isn't deep meditation, psychedelic journeying, or even advanced manifestation practices? What if the most direct access point to the quantum field, the place where all possible timelines exist simultaneously, is actually a specific brain state that you pass through every single night, but almost certainly miss because of one critical mistake? This isn't speculation. Recent research in neuroscience and consciousness studies has identified a specific brainwave state, a particular frequency of theta waves that occurs during the transition between wakefulness and sleep, that creates what quantum physicists call a superposition of consciousness. In this rare state, your awareness exists simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality, allowing you to directly perceive and influence the quantum probability field from which your physical experience emerges. The ancient Tibetans called this state Milam, the clear light of the dream threshold. Vedic traditions named it Sandhya, the junction point between worlds. Modern neuroscience simply calls it Hypnagogia, the transitional state between wakefulness and sleep. But regardless of terminology, the significance of this state has been recognized across cultures and throughout history by those who understand the deeper mechanics of consciousness and reality. What makes this state so extraordinary is that it represents a unique neurological window where the conscious and subconscious minds temporarily operate in perfect harmony, where the analytical left brain and the intuitive right brain synchronize completely, and where the normal constraints of space-time perception temporarily dissolve. In this state, you can literally perceive the branching timelines of possibility that quantum physics tells us exist at the fundamental level of reality. But here's the problem. Most people pass through this powerful state twice daily, when falling asleep and when waking up, without any awareness of its potential. Instead of harnessing this natural window of extraordinary consciousness, they allow their awareness to simply dissolve into unconsciousness as they fall asleep, missing what might be the most powerful opportunity for reality creation available to human consciousness. Today, I'm going to share a specific protocol for breaking what sleep researchers call the hypnagogic barrier, the threshold that normally prevents you from maintaining awareness as you enter the sleep state. This protocol will allow you to consciously enter and navigate the theta state, where all possible timelines exist simultaneously, giving you direct access to what quantum physicists call the probability distribution from which physical reality emerges. But before I explain the protocol itself, it's crucial to understand exactly what happens in your brain during this remarkable transition state, and why it creates such extraordinary potential for consciousness. When you're fully awake, your brain primarily operates in the beta frequency range 13 to 30 Hz, a state associated with alert, analytical thinking and ordinary sensory processing. As you begin to relax deeply, your brain waves slow into the alpha range 8 to 13 Hz, creating a calm, receptive state often accessed in light meditation. But as you approach the sleep threshold, your brain transitions into the theta range 4 to 8 Hz, and it's a specific frequency within this range, approximately 6.5 Hz, that creates the extraordinary state we're discussing. At this precise frequency, something remarkable happens in your neural activity. The normal boundaries between different brain regions begin to dissolve, creating what neuroscientists call whole brain coherence, a state where typically separated neural networks begin communicating and synchronizing in unusual ways. The default mode network associated with self-referential thinking and the task-positive network associated with external attention, which normally operate in opposition, begin functioning simultaneously. Even more significantly, the corpus callosum, the bridge between your analytical left hemisphere and your intuitive right hemisphere, shows a dramatic increase in activity, creating an unusual state of whole brain integration, where these typically specialized hemispheres share information and processing in ways that rarely occur during normal consciousness. This unique neural configuration creates what consciousness researchers call boundary dissolution, a state where the normal divisions between self and other, internal and external, past and future, and even possible and actual, temporarily dissolve. In this state, consciousness is no longer constrained by the ordinary parameters of perception that create our conventional experience of reality. From a quantum perspective, This state allows consciousness to perceive reality before what physicists call wave function collapse, the process where quantum possibilities resolve into specific actualities. In simpler terms, it gives you access to the field of all possibilities before it crystallizes into a single timeline of experience. The implications of this are extraordinary. In this specific theta state, you can perceive multiple possible futures simultaneously, allowing you to select optimal timelines rather than being unconsciously drawn into default probabilities. Access information across time, including insights from what we conventionally call future states that have not yet manifested in linear experience. Identify and dissolve subconscious patterns and programs that are creating unwanted timelines in your experience. Implant specific intentions directly into the quantum field at the level where they can influence probability distributions before they manifest as experience. Perceive reality from what mystical traditions call the unified field, the state of consciousness where the fundamental interconnection of all things is directly experienced rather than intellectually understood. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's consistent with our most advanced understanding of both neuroscience and quantum physics. The theta state creates a neurological condition where consciousness can operate outside its normal constraints, and quantum mechanics confirms that reality, at its fundamental level, exists as probability distributions rather than fixed actualities until the point of observation. What makes this state particularly powerful is that it bypasses the normal filters and limitations that constrain consciousness during waking awareness. In ordinary waking states, your perception is limited by what neuroscientists call predictive processing, your brain's tendency to perceive what it expects to perceive based on past experience. This creates a self-reinforcing loop where your consciousness continually recreates variations of what it has already experienced. But in the 6.5 Hz theta state, these perceptual filters temporarily dissolve, allowing consciousness to perceive reality with much less distortion and limitation. This is why experiences in this state often have a quality of extraordinary clarity and revelation. You're perceiving with fewer of the constraints that normally limit your awareness. So why don't more people utilize this powerful state? The primary reason is what sleep researchers call the continuity break, the tendency for self-reflective awareness to discontinue as you transition through this state into sleep. Most people have been conditioned since childhood to allow consciousness to simply dissolve at this threshold rather than maintaining awareness through it. This is where the protocol I'm about to share becomes so valuable. It's specifically designed to maintain continuous awareness through this transition, allowing you to consciously experience and utilize the extraordinary properties of the 6.5 Hz theta state rather than simply passing through it unconsciously on your way to sleep. The protocol consists of 5 key components, each addressing a specific aspect of successfully navigating this powerful state of consciousness. Preparation, creating the optimal physiological and environmental conditions. Entry, techniques for consciously accessing the 6.5 Hz theta state. Stabilization, methods for maintaining awareness without either falling asleep or returning to wakefulness. Navigation, approaches for working with the multiple timelines and possibilities accessible in this state. Integration, practices for bringing insights and changes back into waking consciousness. Let's explore each of these components in detail. Preparation. The first key to successfully accessing and utilizing the theta state is proper preparation. This involves both your physical environment and your physiological condition. For the environment, the most important factors are temperature. The room should be slightly cool, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, to support the natural drop in body temperature that facilitates the sleep transition without making you uncomfortable. Light. The room should be as dark as possible, with all sources of artificial light eliminated. Even small LEDs from electronic devices can disrupt the pineal gland's natural melatonin production, which is crucial for the transition we're targeting. Sound. Ideally, the environment should be silent. If this isn't possible, consistent white or pink noise is preferable to irregular sounds that might disrupt your transition. Electromagnetic fields. Electronic devices should be removed from the immediate sleep area or placed in airplane mode to minimize electromagnetic interference with your brain's natural electrical activity. For your physiological condition, these factors are most important. Timing. The protocol is most effective when implemented either at night, when you're naturally tired but not exhausted, or during a daytime nap when you're relaxed but not sleep-deprived. Digestion. Your digestive system should be neither empty nor full. A light meal, 2 meals 3 hours before the practice is ideal. Stimulants. Caffeine, nicotine, and other stimulants should be avoided for at least 6 hours before the practice, as they directly interfere with the brain's ability to enter the theta state. Body position. Lying on your back with arms at your sides or resting on your abdomen is optimal for maintaining awareness through the transition. Side or stomach sleeping positions are more likely to result in awareness discontinuity. Entry. The entry phase involves specific techniques for consciously accessing the 6.5 Hz theta state, rather than simply passing through it unconsciously. The most effective approach combines progressive relaxation, beginning with your feet and moving upward. Systematically release tension from each muscle group while maintaining alert awareness. This creates the paradoxical state of physical relaxation with mental alertness that facilitates conscious entry into theta. Breath regulation. Implement a breathing pattern of 4-count inhales and 6-count exhales, gradually extending the exhale until you reach a 4:8 ratio. This breathing pattern naturally induces theta brainwaves while maintaining sufficient oxygen to prevent immediate sleep onset. Hypnagogic anchoring. As you begin to notice the first signs of the hypnagogic state, floating sensations, fragmentary imagery, or unusual body perceptions, silently repeat a specific anchor phrase, such as "I maintain awareness" or "I remain conscious." This creates a focal point for awareness that helps prevent the continuity break. Sensory shifting. Gradually transition your attention from external sensory input to the internal sensations and perceptions that begin to emerge as you enter the theta state. Rather than focusing on physical sensations, allow your awareness to follow the spontaneous imagery, sensations, and impressions that naturally arise. The key to successful entry is maintaining the delicate balance between relaxation and alertness. Too much focus on alertness will prevent you from entering the theta state. Too much emphasis on relaxation will result in unconscious sleep. The ideal approach creates what researchers call the hypnagogic sweet spot, relaxed enough to enter theta, but alert enough to maintain awareness through the transition. Stabilization. Once you begin to enter the theta state, the next challenge is stabilization, maintaining your position in this state without either falling asleep or returning to full wakefulness. This is where most practitioners initially struggle, as the theta state is inherently transitional rather than stable. The most effective stabilization techniques include peripheral awareness, rather than focusing directly on the hypnagogic imagery or sensations which tends to disrupt them. Maintain a soft peripheral awareness that observes without interference. This is similar to how you would observe stars at night by looking slightly to the side, rather than directly at them. Rhythmic attention cycling. Implement a gentle rhythm of attention that moves between your breath, the space behind your closed eyes, and the general field of awareness in a continuous cycle. This movement helps prevent both sleep onset and return to wakefulness. Paradoxical intention. Cultivate the seemingly contradictory intention to simultaneously let go completely while remaining perfectly aware. This paradoxical state, which Zen traditions call active surrender, is ideally suited for maintaining the theta state. Energy body awareness. Shift attention from your physical body to what esoteric traditions call the energy body, the field of subtle sensation that extends beyond your physical form. This shift helps maintain awareness while releasing the anchors to physical consciousness that can pull you back to wakefulness. The stabilization phase typically requires the most practice, as it involves developing a new skill of consciousness that most people have never cultivated. With consistent practice, however, you'll develop what researchers call theta state literacy, the ability to recognize and maintain this unique state of consciousness with increasing precision and duration. Navigation. Once you've successfully stabilized in the theta state, You enter the navigation phase, working consciously with the multiple timelines and possibilities that become accessible in this state. Effective navigation techniques include timeline perception. Allow your awareness to expand beyond linear time, perceiving what appears as multiple potential timelines extending from your current position in consciousness. These often appear as branching paths, streams of light, or parallel corridors of experience. Probability scanning. Move your attention along these timelines, sensing the different probability distributions and potential manifestations associated with each. Notice which timelines feel constrained or limited, and which contain expanded possibilities. Intention seeding. Place specific intentions into timelines that resonate with your desired experiences. This isn't about forcing outcomes, but about aligning your consciousness with probability distributions that naturally lead toward your preferred experiences. Pattern recognition. Identify recurring patterns across multiple timelines that indicate deep subconscious programs operating in your consciousness. These patterns often appear as similar scenarios playing out with different variations across different potential futures. Quantum collapse. For timelines that contain unwanted patterns or outcomes, implement what quantum physicists call intentional decoherence, consciously withdrawing attention and energy from these probability distributions, effectively reducing their likelihood of manifestation. The navigation phase is where the real power of this practice becomes apparent. Unlike visualization or affirmation in the waking state, which attempts to influence reality through the heavily filtered interface of beta consciousness, working in the theta state allows direct interaction with the quantum probability field from which physical experience emerges. Integration. The final phase of the protocol involves integration, bringing the insights, changes, and new probability alignments back into your waking consciousness in ways that allow them to influence your physical experience. Effective integration approaches include memory bridging. Before returning to full wakefulness, create clear mental anchors for the experiences, insights, and timeline adjustments you've made. These can be simple symbols, words, or feelings that help your waking mind reconnect with the theta state experiences. Physical anchoring. As you return to normal consciousness, perform a specific physical gesture such as touching thumb to forefinger or placing your hand over your heart while mentally reviewing the key aspects of your theta state work. This creates a neurological link between the physical action and the theta state experience. Journal documentation. Immediately upon returning to full wakefulness, document your experiences in a dedicated journal. This not only preserves insights that might otherwise fade quickly, but also strengthens the neural pathways associated with conscious theta state navigation. Daytime reinforcement. Throughout the following day, briefly return to the anchors you established, reinforcing the connection between your ordinary consciousness and the timeline adjustments made during the theta state work. Cyclical practice. Implement this protocol on a regular schedule, ideally daily for at least 21 days, to establish what neuroscientists call state-specific memory, the ability to maintain continuity of awareness and intention across different states of consciousness. The integration phase is crucial because it creates the bridge between the extraordinary consciousness of the theta state and your ordinary waking experience. Without proper integration, the timeline adjustments and probability shifts initiated in theta can remain isolated from your waking consciousness, limiting their impact on your manifested experience. As you implement this protocol consistently, you'll likely notice several distinct phases of development. In the initial phase, typically the first 9 to 10 sessions, the primary challenge is simply maintaining continuous awareness through the hypnagogic transition without either falling asleep or returning to wakefulness. During this phase, your experiences may be fragmentary and brief, but even these limited exposures begin reconfiguring your brain's relationship with the theta state. In the intermediate phase, typically sessions 10-30, you'll develop increasing stability in the theta state, with longer periods of continuous awareness and more coherent experiences of the multiple timeline perception. During this phase, you'll begin to recognize patterns across potential futures and develop greater skill in navigating probability distributions. In the advanced phase, generally after 30+ consistent sessions, you'll develop what researchers call theta state fluency, the ability to enter, stabilize, and navigate this state with precision and intention. At this stage, The protocol becomes an extraordinarily powerful tool for conscious reality creation, allowing you to perceive and select optimal timelines while dissolving probability distributions that lead to unwanted experiences. It's worth noting that this protocol doesn't require extraordinary psychic abilities or special spiritual gifts. It's based on natural neurological capacities that all humans possess but rarely develop. The only requirements are consistency of practice and willingness to explore consciousness beyond its ordinary parameters. But I want to offer an important caveat. This practice, while extraordinarily powerful for conscious reality creation, isn't primarily about manifesting specific material outcomes or advantages. Those who approach it with superficial materialistic intentions typically experience either limited results or unexpected consequences that teach deeper lessons about the nature of consciousness and reality. The most profound benefits of this practice involve a fundamental shift in how you perceive and relate to reality itself. As you develop facility with conscious theta state navigation, you'll likely experience a natural dissolution of anxiety about the future as you directly perceive the fluid, probabilistic nature of reality rather than experiencing it as fixed and predetermined, increasing synchronicity and flow in your daily experience as your consciousness naturally aligns with optimal probability distributions without forced effort, greater intuitive access to information and solutions that exist beyond your ordinary awareness as the barriers between conscious and subconscious processing dissolve, a profound shift in your relationship with time, experiencing it less as a linear progression and more as a field of possibilities that your consciousness navigates, a natural alignment with your authentic evolutionary path as you perceive and select timelines that resonate with your deepest nature rather than conditioned expectations. These shifts represent what some traditions would call spiritual awakening, not as a mystical concept, but as a practical evolution in how consciousness perceives and interacts with reality. The Theta State Protocol simply provides a structured, accessible method for facilitating this evolution through direct experience rather than intellectual understanding. So how do you begin implementing this protocol in your own experience? I recommend starting with a simplified version focused primarily on the first two phases, preparation and entry, until you develop some facility with maintaining awareness through the hypnagogic transition. Begin by creating optimal environmental conditions as described earlier, then lie down in the recommended position and implement the progressive relaxation and breath regulation techniques. As you approach the theta state, focus primarily on the hypnagogic anchoring technique, silently repeating your chosen phrase, Theta, I maintain awareness or similar, while observing the transitions in your consciousness without attempting to control them. In these initial sessions, consider success to be any moment of clear awareness within the theta state, even if brief. Like any skill of consciousness, this develops gradually with consistent practice. Many practitioners report significant breakthroughs around the 14-day mark, as the brain establishes new neural pathways supporting continuous awareness through the sleep transition. As you develop basic facility with maintaining awareness into the theta state, gradually incorporate the stabilization techniques, particularly the peripheral awareness and rhythmic attention cycling approaches. These create the foundation for the more advanced navigation practices that become accessible as your theta state literacy develops. Throughout this process, maintain the integration practices, particularly journal documentation and daytime reinforcement, as these create the crucial bridges between your theta state work and your waking experience, allowing the probability shifts initiated in theta to manifest in your physical reality. If you feel drawn to explore this powerful protocol for breaking the sleep barrier and accessing the theta state, where all timelines exist simultaneously, drop the word timelines in the comments below. This isn't just for engagement, it's a declaration of your intention to develop this remarkable capacity of consciousness that remains dormant in most people. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to join a community of consciousness explorers who are combining ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science to access the extraordinary capacities that lie just beyond the boundaries of ordinary awareness. Because the truth is, the most powerful state for conscious reality creation isn't some exotic, inaccessible condition. It's a natural phase of consciousness that you pass through every night, waiting only for you to maintain awareness through the transition that most people miss. The ancient Tibetan sleep yogis had a saying, "Those who become conscious in the transition become conscious of all transitions." Perhaps it's time to discover what becomes possible when you break through the sleep barrier and access the Theta state, where all timelines exist as possibilities waiting for the touch of your conscious awareness.